Hello, hello. Welcome back to Let's Talk Ray Bradbury. This is the playlist here on Let's Talk, where currently the project is to review every single story in a collection called Bradbury Stories, which has about 100 stories. We are approaching the halfway point in this project, which I started last year. I'm going to get through it eventually. One story at a time, a few stories every week. I hope you will follow me on this journey. Today's tale is The Watchers. As I do in these videos, I will begin with a synopsis and then add with a few parting thoughts, my feelings about the story, my recommendation to you. The Watchers, it is in first person's perspective. The narrator is a secretary for a man named Bill Tinsley. He's typing us and he warns us not to kill insects, and there's actually insects crawling around him in his room there as he types. But we learned that his boss, Mr. Tinsley, is spending his fortune on bug spray, and he's never seen without a fly swatter. We learn that this neurosis of his came from an experience when he was 17. He went on a hunting trip with his father. He set the gun against a tree. It was knocked over by a flying bird. It shot the father, killed him. And 5 hours later, when the boy came back with help, he discovered his father's body completely covered with insects, and from that day on, he had an extreme phobia of insects, and he developed this idea that insects were in fact spies. There were billions of them keeping an eye on humans for the devil, because he couldn't be everywhere once himself. The narrator, he fears that Mr. Tinsley is going nuts, so he arranges for him to go out on a date with a psychiatrist named Susan, because he fears he would not see her willingly. And she believes that she can cure the man. So they convince Tinsley that he should spend 8 weeks in the house together. They're going to hang out. They're going to not kill any insects. And then if these insects have not spied on him and given him away to the devil, for that time, he should be able to understand that they are in fact not the threat that he believes they are. One night in the house, they hear Mr. Tinsley screaming. They run downstairs. He was just in the shower. He had it running scalding hot. And then he shoots out through the hallway, out the door, into his car, soaking wet, and drives away like a madman, fearing that he's going to hurt himself. They follow him. They track him down. By the time they get to him, the car is sort of rolling around at 3 miles an hour. They walk up beside it. They stop it. And inside, they find that he has been basically eaten to the bone by bacteria. The revelation here is that while he was fearing insects, possibly insects were in fact the messengers, the eyes and ears of God, whereas the devil actually worked with bacteria. And in fact, having been exposed, the bacteria, the microbes of the world, which are actually part of a natural process of decomposition, along with insects. They, in fact, were the persecuting, watching, listening ears and eyes of evil. By the time we get back to the present, where the narrator is typing, he reveals this revelation to us, and he feels himself getting sick. And as the final words of the story end, he trails off, typing garbled nonsense, random letters, because he can no longer control himself on the keyboard, and presumably he dies. Pretty interesting twist on the ageless phobia and mental health type issue. You start off, you think that the person in question is unhealthy, that they are sick, but it turns out they were onto something, but somehow there's still a twist, because whatever was affecting him is now going to affect you, and his delusions were in fact less delusional than everybody else thought. It feels very much like a Twilight Zone style story. I think it would be great for a Twilight Zone episode. I do love the main concept here, which is good and evil playing out on a microscopic scale, and at an insect level, I'm sort of reminded of the line from The Matrix where Agent Smith, refers to humans as a bacteria because, like viruses, they're the only species that will basically breed and breed and breed and breed and never regulate themselves, even at their own expense, and possibly cause their own demise, and then will just basically run over the world and destroy their own environment. And so it sort of reminds me of that sentiment. We are outnumbered by both. We think of ourselves as the rulers of the world, but are we? These species have been around for much, much longer than we are. They will certainly be here much, much longer after we are gone. And I love when a story is able to sort of make you feel small like that. I think that's always a good trick to play. It's not rocket science. It is done in that, and you'll hear me talking about this more and more if you continue watching these videos. It plays out in that classic, fun, playful Ray Bradbury style. It's almost slightly comedic. It's always a little bit absurd, and I think that tone is a great way to, in the space of a short story where you don't have a lot of time to build your world, I think this is a perfect avenue for making stories feel believable. I guess verisimilitude would probably be the term we're looking for here. And it works here as it often did in Bradbury. I think that slightly absurdness that he uses, I think a lot of people, although he's a legend, he's a grandmaster, I think a lot of people underestimate Bradbury for this reason. They expect everything to be in a serious tone, and which it often wasn't with his. But I think this is also what makes his stories timeless, makes them appropriate for both children and adults. And even at age 37, I can continue reading these and enjoying these in a slightly lighthearted way, but also while taking away something a little bit more profound as well. So there you go. There you go, guys. The Watchers. I recommend this one. It is available in this volume, Bradbury Stories, as well as in several other anthologies with all the digital avenues for finding stories these days. I'm sure you can find it somewhere else. Be sure to check it out. Next up, we are doing 2004-2005, The Naming of Names. What is that story about? You'll have to tune in and see for yourself in a couple of days. In the meantime, please subscribe, have a good weekend, and I'll talk to you again soon.